This is an update. I decided to improve efficiency by specializing in two circuits. One for sleeping and one for developing my skill, or lack of skill, in expressing a free energy device, manifesting a free energy device. I'm pretty good at manifesting circuits for sleep to enhance the earthing experience, but the two are a bit antithetical to each other. They're not the same, and to try to impose the limitations of sleep upon the amplification of power in a Overunity device, that's asking too much. And it's asking too much of a free energy device to be healthy, to be balanced, to be symmetrical, when the whole point is Overunity, because we are gluttons for energy usage. Our machines are gluttons for energy usage. We don't have all our machines scaled down to be the same as our digital wristwatch, to be no more energy consumptive than a wristwatch. That's how much energy all of our electric appliances should be consuming. It doesn't matter what they are, an electric car or whatever. That's how much energy they should consume. No more. But because they consume so much, we have to use Overunity, which is asymmetrical, which is imbalanced, which is not environmentally ergonomic, nor is it biologically ergonomic, because it messes with balance. It creates imbalance in the physiology, in the environment, and stress, and all kinds of illnesses related to electropollution, electrosmog. This is just reality of our current day development of the technology in our society. We have to cater to energy hog machines. Why, I don't know. I guess to keep our bills up so that the power company can charge us. But if we make our own energy, it won't be necessary. And then all these micro-technologies will have a demand that they don't have currently. There's some, but not an excruciating demand, which should be the case, to conserve our energy consumption. Not because we have a limit of energy, far be it from that being the case, but because the hogging of consumption of energy, the rampant consumption of energy, is bad for the environment and bad for the self and bad for living things. So I have two different technologies that are predicated on two different ideologies. One, the future, low power usage. The only thing powering that sleep circuit is the earth and my body, and that's it. And that's the way all of our free energy devices should be. Like Nathan Stubblefield powering any kind of motor, DC or AC, off of his so-called earth battery, which he had to call to get it patented, but it's actually, he called it privately his earth collector. That's the kind of energy we should be using, is strictly from the earth. But if we have to power it using an artificial source or have extreme Overunity such that we have to make sure we don't fry the circuit, because it can really get out of hand and produce too much Overunity. All these caveats to Overunity, I'm just going to have to live with it. I am just going to have to live with it for the time being, and the rest of us too, for that matter. So I'm sorry I didn't show you my putting together. That's a prior development I have documented over at earthinglife.info. But it's essentially two small floor flanges, kind of like this, only smaller and zinc plated. And I got them at the local hardware store, if I can change the focus without blocking the camera. There are two of them in there, sandwiched together, back to back. Each one is counter-wound with enameled floral wire. That's iron wire with enamel insulation. I want to guess 150 turns, single layer across the entire surface. One clockwise, the other counterclockwise, and they're connected together in a loop. Not unlike the loop of the way that plug number 2 of Clarence's schematic on the replication of Barbosa and Leal connects his two toroids. The difference being his toroids are both clockwise wound, while I decided, for reasons at the time, I was using the AC outlet grounding port rather than a grounding rod, and so I had to neutralize the AC hum that bleeds over from the hot lead to the grounding wire by radio transference, radio broadcast and reception transference. So I had to neutralize that AC hum by having two counterwound toroids. But at least I connected them together in a loop, in a closed loop, and then one of those two connections branched off in a Y to the earth ground, and the other branched off to my earthing bedsheet. And then I sandwiched them together, and at the time I had a quartz crystal, an amethyst arrowhead point in the center, but I took that out, and I should have put a magnet in. I forgot to put a magnet in there, but I left it out, so there's no magnet, but I did put in two diodes. And that's what I learned when I revived my development of sleep circuits. I applied it to this, which may be inappropriate. Where's my finger? I have a diode on each lead pointing in to the magnetic field, the electromagnetic field of the toroid. Well, I used so that would be 4, but I decided to use only 2. One on the outer portion of each junction, of each Y junction. So the two toroids counterwound with respect to each other, connected together as a continuous loop, and then one junction goes off to the diode, becoming a Y junction, which then goes on to the grounding rod outside, and the other junction is also a diode, creating a Y junction that goes off to the earthing bedsheet, and both diodes are pointing in to the circular loop. And that's it. That's all I have in... Oh, wait. And then there's aluminum foil surrounding the sandwiched toroids. So I have them sandwiched together, back to back, and then and then covered with aluminum foil, and then saran wrap on top of that to create an insulating effect surrounding the aluminum foil. So the aluminum foil is not shorting out anything. It's just a floating plate capacitor. Capacitor plate. And that's it. And it's very relaxing. It's so much better than my connecting of this Barbosa and Leal earth captor device to my earthing bed sheet, because this is really not appropriate for sleeping on it. It still creates problems for my sleep. It's not designed for restful sleep. It's designed for overunity. Come on. So why restrict it in any sort of way? So I may end up taking the diodes off of this, because Clarence never used diodes, at least not what he shared with us, because that competes or impedes with the amperage flow going into the toroids. Why would you want to do that? You'd want more energy going into the toroids, not less. I put it on here for a reason, because when the diodes are pointing in on each lead going into the toroids, or in this case the shared leads, it creates immunity from negativity in my environment, and not the least of which, is the negativity upon attacking the physiology in the form of electrosmog, electropollution in the earth, the AC pollution in the earth, and everything else that's in the earth. But also that's in our environment, inside our building, our house wiring, inside our rooms. So it creates immunity for some reason, and that's when the diodes are pointing towards a magnetic field, an electromagnetic field. When they point away, it actually drains the body of life force, which is, not a great idea. So there's only one way to do it, and if you do it the wrong way, leave them out. Don't include them. I found that earthing, grounding to a grounding rod outside while I sleep at night created vulnerability, a sense of vulnerability, and I never could put my finger on it or what to do about it. It turns out the diodes pointing inwards to an electromagnetic field takes care of that problem. There's no reason why we should be increasing our vulnerability to the stress of our environment, the subtle stress of electros pollution. Just because we want to lead more refined lives doesn't mean we need to be more vulnerable at the same time. We should be protected, immune as well as sensitive. That's the ideal, is to be both sensitive and not vulnerable. Sensitive and immune at the same time, which seems difficult, and it is. It's not that easy. It takes good fortune, fortuitous good fortune to remedy the situation, come up with the right idea on how to rectify that in our own way, in our own lives. So this is what I've done with my sleep circuits. So I've separated the two, and now I get to develop this any way I want to. I'm free to develop without any restriction of posing a threat to my body or requiring that I test my body on it first. No, none of that. Just strictly going with free energy. That's all. No restrictions. And that's a liberating decision on my part, to not try to force myself to understand these things intimately. That's expecting too much. Now, I leave my intimacy for the sleep circuit, and that's as far as it goes. Good enough.